Now, this next story we have for you is actually pretty interesting. 34 Democratic lawmakers are urging Biden to pardon Donziger, the environmental lawyer who won a $9.5 billion case against Chevron, only to face a relentless campaign to demonize him. We have a report here from Prem Thacker over at Zeteo. Stephen Donziger won a $9.5 billion case against Chevron, the oil giant, and they then embark on a years-long effort to demonize him. So dozens of Democratic lawmakers are urging President Joe Biden to pardon Stephen Donziger, an environmental lawyer who led the $9.5 billion legal case against Chevron for its responsibility in the dumping of oil waste en masse in Ecuador, in what became known as the Amazon Chernobyl. President Biden, your administration has prioritized promoting the rule of law, standing up for those who are victims of injustice, like your son, Hunter Biden, and working to defend our democracy, the 34 members of Congress wrote in a letter sent to Biden on Wednesday. In light of the highly suspect charges against Mr. Donziger, their alarming connection to his work as an environmental lawyer, we ask that you exercise your power of executive clemency to issue a full and unconditional pardon for Mr. Donziger. The lawmakers added, referring to the contempt of court charges the environmental lawyer was convicted of in 2021. This appeal to Biden comes on the heels of the outgoing president's decision to pardon his son Hunter, reining on his previous pledge not to do so, reneging. An array of high-ranking and ideologically diverse Democrats signed on to Wednesday's letter. It's led by Representative James McGovern of Massachusetts and ranking member of the House Rules Committee, and supported by Representative Jamie Raskin of Maryland. The ranking member of the House Oversight Committee, as well as Representatives Rashida Tlaib of Michigan, Ted Lieu of California, and outgoing and incoming chairs of Congressional Progressive Caucus, Pramila Jayapal of Washington, and, of course, the incoming one, Greg Cesar of Texas, among others. Senator Sheldon Whitehouse and Bernie Sanders have joined the effort from the Senate side. The White House did not immediately respond for a request for comment on the letter. So, supporters of Donziger often point to internal company memos that show Chevron sought to demonize the lawyer for more than a decade. The case stems back to 1964 when oil brand Texaco, which Chevron purchased in 2000, began exploring and extracting in Ecuador. Over the decades to come, Texaco dumped billions of gallons of toxic waste into the Amazon rainforest, polluting acres of earth and indigenous ancestral lands, directly contaminating 30,000 people, bringing diseases and birth defects to the population. Now, Donziger, who represented these affected in a class action lawsuit against Chevron, called what he saw in Ecuador an apocalyptic disaster, almost like the end of the world. His years-long effort, of course, netted the $9.5 billion judgment against Chevron in 2011, a judgment the oil giant did not pay. Interesting. And instead filed a racketeer, influenced, and corrupt organization suit against Donziger, a RICO suit. Claiming the entire case against it was built off fraud and extortion, U.S. District Judge Lewis Kaplan ruled in favor of Chevron in 2014. The company's star witness later admitted he lied, but an appeals court declined to consider the revelation. As the legal saga drew on, Kaplan in 2019 charged Donziger with contempt of court after the environmental lawyer defied a court order and refused to turn over case files, arguing it would violate attorney-client privilege. While federal prosecutors declined to take up the case against Donziger, Kaplan made the unprecedented move to appoint a private firm, one with alleged ties to Chevron itself, to prosecute Donziger on the charges. Isn't that interesting when you can ask Chevron to get its own people to prosecute its own enemies for its own crimes that it did? Isn't that great? It's like asking the police or the IDF to investigate themselves, and they always come up not guilty. So that's where we are. So Donziger was then denied a jury trial and convicted in 2021. He was ultimately disbarred and spent 45 days in prison, 993 more days under house arrest. Attorney General Merrick Garland ignored appeals, including from members of Congress, to review Donziger's case, and in 2022, his Justice Department filed a brief in opposition to Donziger's appeal to the Supreme Court. Donziger exhausted all legal avenues to overturn his conviction last year after the Supreme Court refused to hear the case. So, Wednesday's letter adds to the growing calls for a pardon. Earlier this year, 50 environmental and human rights groups, including Amnesty International, Greenpeace, and Amazon Watch, urged Biden to pardon Donziger. In Wednesday's letter, Democratic lawmakers wrote that they are concerned about the chilling effect this case will have on all advocates working on behalf of other frontline communities, victims of human rights violations, and those seeking environmental justice. Pardoning Donziger, they added, would send a powerful message to the world. The billion-dollar corporations cannot act with impunity against lawyers and their clients who defend the public interest. And, of course, they have the letter linked below, and I'll link that in the description. But we should note that Donald Trump is a recipient of Chevron's lobbying. He's received $208,000. And, of course, Joe Biden has received $205,000 from Chevron. So do you think these corporate Democrats and corporate Republicans are likely to vote against their interests when these companies are lining their pockets? It's just another reason why we need to get the big money and the big political action committees and corporations out of our politics. Bernie Sanders preaching the good word once again on this one. We'll follow this. We'll see what happens. I mean, crazier things have happened. Biden could go wild with pardons, and sort of justify his Hunter Biden pardon by actually doing some legitimate and rightful and justified pardons like this one. So we'll keep an eye on the issue. Take care, be safe, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye.